Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he's such a dirty baby that he too would always use a good drenching. Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet.
Hi.
And I wasn't prepared for that one. And he's just wondering how he can get Totoro's job, Bruce Leslie.
I got 3 kids, a really small one, a big one, and an even bigger one that just likes to sleep.
And joining us to talk about this magical adventure is a magical young lady whose entire life is an adventure when anime dad's behind the wheel. Welcome to the show, Sophia.
I'm the one that likes to sleep.
Who doesn't like to sleep? Sleeping is the best. Ladies and gentlemen, we are smack dab. I don't want to say in the middle. We're not quite in the middle. Next week we'll be
at the beginning.
We're at the beginning of anime here. That's kind of become a bit of a theme for us. What's it been? 3 years now, at least?
2.
No, this is the second year, buddy.
Do we not?
This is the second year.
Listen, I don't know how time and space works or much of
Second
anything.
annual.
Second annual
anime.
And so today we're just talking about 1988's My Neighbor Totoro of the Studio Ghibli fame. So we'll be talking about all of that good stuff. But before we do, we want to say a giant thank you to the people that support this show over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone, huge Dinger Zone this week, huge Dinger Zone. So go check that out. And thank you to all the people that support this show, man. It really means a lot. I had to replace a computer for this show and everything, and you guys have helped that along the way, and we want to thank you guys. And if you listen to this show, why don't you listen to some of our other friends who are actually supporters of this show? So, like, they kind of, the love just keeps on growing. So I want you guys to go out and listen to How We Sees It. That's with 3 E's and a Z. How We Sees It with Steve and Noah. They great show. Check out the Main Attraction podcast, the All American Spook Show. We have been watching with Marty and Rob. All of these guys, they're just great friends of ours, put out some great shows. And if you enjoy this stuff, you're going to enjoy that stuff too. So go over there. Check those guys out, review them and all that kind of good stuff. And if you want to help support this show, patreon.com/HMP.
And he's not a Patreon subscriber, but I do want to just give a shout out to my very close personal friend and his really small podcast. It's called My Brother and Me. Go check it out.
Yeah, it's a tiny one. Check it out. Just, drop our names if you feel like it. Patreon.com/HMP. Thank you guys. So let's get into it. This week we're doing My Neighbor Totoro. Sean, this was kind of like, this was your spearhead. We're kind of each taking turns as the anime goes on. What was the thought process?
Well, anime, I know that this is not an anime. I know that this
it is. It is.
It is considered anime?
Dude,
it is considered anime? Okay, cool. But not only is this my favorite Miyazaki movie, it's my favorite cartoon animation ever. It's one of those movies where when you get older, like when I was a kid, I saw it the first time and I was like, that is amazing. And then as I got older, it's one of those rare instances where it gets better as you age. And especially if you're someone who is a single father who has 2 daughters.
That's what I can't wait to talk about with you, man.
And that's truly where it comes into like a spotlight is shining on this thing. So even though when we go blow by blow through this thing today, I'm going to be making jokes and quips and things of that nature. It is my favorite animation thing ever. Like I love it so much. And it's one of those things where it's like magic when you watch it, because it's one of those movies where you see it and you're like, oh, this is what this movie means. And then you see it a couple of years later and you're like, oh, this is what this movie means.
Yeah.
And that's why that's what makes it so fascinating to me. And it's for something that seems so simple, it really, really is not.
I was, for whatever reason, I never really watched many, if any, I think at that point, Studio Ghibli movies at all. And because HBO has the majority, if not all of them, maybe a year or so ago. Like, this was the first one that I checked out. And so I've still,
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
So because this isn't the most famous one he has.
Yeah.
By far, it's not the most well respected. But Sophia, you remember when we first moved into this house and you and I hooked up HBO Max and we watched My Neighbor Totoro?
Oh yeah, we were on a roll there. We'd watch like one Studio Ghibli a month, or not a month, a week.
A week, yeah. Well, that was the first time I'd ever seen this.
Oh, really?
And it's kind of cool. You know, it's not quite to parallel Sean's experience, but it's pretty cool for the first time you watch this, to watch it with your daughter.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Well, I don't have a daughter, but I imagine it's cool.
You know, it's cool to watch with your father because the father really is the true star of this movie. So let's get into it.
Not even close.
Let's get into it. Here is the IMDb plot line for My Neighbor Totoro. As we all know, IMDb 100% correct in everything they say and or do. When two girls move into the country to be near their ailing mother, they have adventures with wondrous forest spirits who live nearby. This is written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki.
Hayao Miyazaki.
I tried.
It's good.
Well,
it's good. You're close.
You know what time it is, everybody.
It's time for Bruce's Comic Book Connection.
Oh, boy. What's he got for us this week?
Well, unfortunately, My Neighbor Totoro is not based on a comic book. But I'll have you know that My Neighbor Totoro still has some connections that are really, really amazing. First off, is you can check any number of sources and they will always tell you that My Neighbor Totoro is exactly as popular as Winnie the Pooh in Japan.
Huh.
That is a weird thing to be exactly as popular as, because like Winnie the Pooh does have that legendary iconic status that nothing you create will probably come anywhere near Winnie the Pooh. But if you're Hayao Miyazaki, why not aim for Mickey Mouse? I mean, come on. Like I think Totoro is the Mickey Mouse of Japan and not the Winnie the Pooh, because the mascot, the logo for Studio Ghibli, many incarnations of it are our good friend Totoro, who is May's neighbor. So even though there's not a comic book there is Winnie the Pooh, and this is the Winnie the Pooh of Japan. So speaking of Totoro, Blood and Honey, Adam, do you have a list?
The Winnie the Pooh of China, though, is their president. Got him.
Yes, I love it. Got him.
Feel the burn.
Just because I know he really hates that.
What is it? Is King Jing Li? I can't remember his name now. It's like there's a king in it. There's like Q-I-N-G in there.
Beats me. I just know that he hates being called Winnie the Pooh. And when you kind of look at him, he kind of does, like, he's got like a kind of a, like when he's smiling.
I never thought he looked like Winnie the Pooh until he banned Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, he's got these beady little eyes and that tiny little smile. It's like he kind of does look like Winnie the Pooh.
Are you familiar with this phenomenon, Sophia, of the like the supreme leader of China being called Winnie the Pooh? So now Winnie the Pooh's banned in China.
No, I did not know that at all. What a travesty for China, man. Winnie the Pooh is awesome.
That's why between 2016 and 2020 there were no Howard the Duck movies.
It's so great that there's that we get to call a world leader. Ew.
It's fun. All right. Well, if that wasn't enough, let me sell everybody on this Studio Ghibli classic, because this sucker's got everything. I skipped a word. We got an animated opening sequence that's not a Blake Edwards ripoff. Boy, oh boy, was I happy. We've got the Fanning sisters in this English language version before they hit super huge. We got your boy from Wings. We got amazing backgrounds playing in squalor, acorns from the ceiling, soot gremlins, or soot sprites, if you will. We got kids that are excited to fetch water, so you know these kids aren't Zoomers. You wanted exciting anime? How about a house cleaning montage? Yeah, you didn't think you signed up for that. We got crazed hot tub laughing, biking into town to see mom in the hospital, mysterious woodland creatures, a quiet kid, waiting for buses, trees growing, an almost theme to Sesame Street, missing children, corn delivery, sick mom, dad with huge pants and no time for his daughters, flying 10-legged cat buses. This show's has everything.
Okay,
nice.
So before we get into it. You know, over the years I've seen a lot of different like video essays and listened to a lot of podcasts about this movie specifically. But I think that the thing that some people get wrong is that a lot of people seem to think that this is about death and acceptance of death, but certainly that's part of it. But really, it's about how you can choose to be scared of uncertainty or not. That's really what this movie is about.
That's what I got.
And you know, it's that is, death is part of that, you know, the uncertainty of death. But like mostly, it's about just it's your decision whether or not you want to be afraid of things that you don't know what's coming. And so whether it's ghosts, whether it's your mom's sick, whether it's you know, like what's going to happen with this acorn, like all of these things. And so that's really what this movie is about.
Now, so to me, the biggest takeaway from this movie has to do about like the wonder of childhood and imagination.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, there's that
and
too.
I totally get it. Like what you're talking about is dealing with how you're going to choose to face this. That's the sort of, well, if we're talking about the X-Men, that's the kind of trauma that brings out your mutant power, right? Like I'm sorry, I always got to go back to comic book stuff. So here it's like the all the things that you're saying, Sean, are absolutely true. But then what they're triggering is this mutant ability of this amazing imagination that can cross the line where you can't even remember what is real and what was imagined, and you've got that shared folie à deux with May and her sister, which is a beautiful thing that children can do too.
Right.
I think it kind of showcases how a child's perspective on the world can be so vastly different from an adult's.
Sophia, what do you know about a little girl's perspective? Come on, man.
Oh, well, seeing as I was one not too long ago.
Like this morning.
I think because like kids, they think differently than adults do, obviously. And to a kid, the world seems so magical. And it just kind of shows how taking like a situation like a sick mom, a kid can put their own spin on it to cope, you know, just to try and, you know, make it through.
You ain't said a wrong word yet, kid. Adam, do you have any hot takes before we get into it?
Yeah, I mean, I was just ultimately, let me just kind of get my one of the things I was really surprised. I don't want to say surprised about, but like just blown away by. And the first time I saw it, and still even so this second time, is just how beautiful this movie is. And,
yeah, it's gorgeous.
It is the amount of just style and things that you in animation do not have to do. So many lighting things of things and angles and stuff, things that you do not have to do, that is like what I call extra work. You've added a lot of extra work from so many different things, and the time and care is taken in this, and it shows in every frame. It's nuts.
I'll say that the first act, the story in the first act, I won't even say the first act, I'll say the first half. The story in the first half is really episodic. And the story in the first half is not my favorite, but this animation is just so I don't know.
It's mesmerizing.
Iconic. Iconic is the only word I know. I mean, Totoro is. You don't know who Totoro is. You don't know what this movie is, but you've seen Totoro. Like Totoro is at Hot Topic on a bookmark. Like Totoro is at Totoro is on dangly things from backpacks at your school,
T-shirts and all kinds.
I've never seen the movie, but yeah, there's nothing short of iconic that keeps me locked in during that episodic first half. That tells me Miyazaki had a beautiful idea and he had a 1 hour story, but he knew that it was worth just spending time with these people to tell that 1 hour story so that he could make it feature length. And every single time, I've only seen it twice. But both times I've watched this, in the beginning, I'm thinking like this movie's overrated, and by the end, I get it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here we go. My Neighbor Totoro, written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Before the movie begins, we get the Studio Ghibli logo where a small Totoro poops across the screen, and we're hit with the opening credits for My Neighbor Totoro and the song, Hey, Let's Go! Hey, Let's Go! starts up, and if the credits were 8 minutes long, it would be the most annoying song ever, but since it's less than 2 minutes, it's fine.
Wait. Those credits are way more than 2 minutes.
No, they're not.
It feels like it goes on for so long.
No, they really aren't.
I feel like the Japanese credits came to the end and they had to repeat them for the American title.
They do. They repeat it twice, but it's less than 2 minutes. We open on a field where a man is driving the world's smallest pickup truck with all his earthly possessions, and his two daughters, Satsuki and May, are riding in the back. They're the Kusakabis. The girls aren't in child seats or seat belts or even seats. They're packed away under the desk in the bed of the truck with his books, and they're sharing caramels, which tells you immediately that this movie is set in the past. Because if I were to offer my two daughters caramels, they would look at me the same way Michael looks at Toby. I
don't know, man. I love me some Werthers. I'll tell you what.
You are literally the only kid in the world who's ever said those words.
That is the weirdest thing for a 17-year-old to say.
I have never heard a child, including my own self when I was a child.
I love some Werthers.
I only like the hard ones, though. I don't like the soft ones, but I think I've been eating them for at least like 5 to 7 years. They're good.
Bruce, have I told you you've done a great job raising your kids?
Sophia, here, Adam. Do you think Sophia knows who Michael Scott is?
I feel like today I would say so, because I'm to understand that the kids watch a lot of old programming on the internet.
Have you ever heard of Michael Scott, Sophia?
I don't think so.
There was one point, and I will not tell you what point that was, but there was a point when you were talking about Werthers when Michael Scott would have said that's what she said.
I forgot you guys are a friend's house.
I don't. Who's Michael Scott?
He's from The Office. He's a character from The Office.
Oh, okay. I've seen clips of The Office, but I've never sat down and watched it.
Have you ever heard of a guy named Ricky Gervais?
Yes.
Michael Scott's the American version of Ricky Gervais.
Let's keep going.
Yes.
So it's a beautiful, quaint countryside scene that likes to take its time, and we learn that they're moving to a new house. And we meet the neighbors who are farmers, and they have a boy that's roughly the same age as Satsuki, who is the older sister, who is probably around 10. And we know that the neighbor boy is a little sweet on her because two red marks line across his cheeks, and his mouth looks like Donkey Kong's mouth from the hit video game Donkey Kong.
And he can't say anything. He's so nervous when she's around.
From classic young Bruce memories, shoving something in a bag forward while you grunt is a key way to say, like, I want to marry you.
I like you.
So hey, you got mom?
Yes.
The Kusakabis show up to the new house, and the girls see that it needs a bit of work, but they don't get frowny face and start saying things like, I hope we can up the resale value in a few years. And no one's talking about the rate of the home loan. No. These girls start happily talking about how it might be haunted and that it's creepy. And they start doing somersaults in the side yard where they see a very, very big tree that is so large, there's just no way it doesn't come up later.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a quick question here before we move on.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the kids moving into the new house, and they're coming into that truck. And I got to tell you that, like, when my dad was young, him and my uncle had this like 3-wheeled truck that my grandpa bought from Italy that they would like run errands in. And I've seen old pictures of it, and it looks so much like this Japanese truck in My Neighbor Totoro.
I want one.
I think it's one of those trucks that you can use in inner city in Europe because it's so small that you can go through, the tiny roads.
Like how country clubs have those golf carts with a truck bed on them. It almost feels like that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a 3-wheeled truck. That's so bizarre.
Oh, ask Uncle Steve about it. He'll talk to you for hours.
The girls start exploring the house, and they run into what their dad calls soot gremlins, which we'll learn later are actually called soot sprouts. And this is the first part of the movie where you need to ask yourself a question. That question being, are soot sprites real? And I answer every single time, I don't want to live in a world where they're not.
I mean, this is the Japanese dust bunny, right?
Yes. Soot sprite. Dust bunny.
He's scary.
Yeah, in
He's
English
scared.
it's a dust bunny, but in it's a dust sprite there.
Yeah, but like dust bunnies don't move. I feel like if I saw a piece of dirt scurrying over, like along, I'd leave the house and not come back for like 5 days.
Wait till you're in college, girl.
Mm.
All right, so
I had some of that when I lived with my brother. We wouldn't clean any dishes, and they were just like life would grow.
Oh, don't even start. Don't start.
Oh my gosh.
but Sean, the best dad answer in all eternity, the best dad answer when you're taking your two young girls to move into a new house and they say, Dad, I think there's a ghost in there. You go, yay, I've always wanted to live in a haunted house. That is the best dad answer.
That's true. That's true. So there is a weird bathroom situation happening, and this is where I noticed something about this movie that I've never noticed before, and that's that all the characters in this movie and their cadence and the way they move differently from each other. Like when you're watching The Simpsons, Homer, Lisa, Bart, even Chief Wiggum move basically the same way. But not here, not in this movie, because Satsuki and May and their dad, they all have different cadences to their walk. And you can even tell who's who from a very long distance, which is a level of detail that, it just rings the nerd bell in my heart.
It's so annoying how many things there are like that, where it's just like, you didn't need to do all this, but boy, oh boy, does it make the difference that you did. Wow.
Yeah.
It goes from just being a thing that's animated to being something that you would go like, oh, there's a reason why, this 1988 thing is still, as revered as it was then. Is that
And
like
it's
really
also kind of cool to sit back and remember 1988 Japan. This is a time and place where everything you're seeing was hand drawn here.
Yeah.
I think Hayao Miyazaki, he puts so much like care into absolutely everything he does, which is amazing. I wish more animators nowadays would care as much as he did. Like I think it's just awesome to watch anything he does.
We need 56 episodes.
The truth is they would, but especially somebody like Gendy Tartakovsky, like he would absolutely put as much time as they let him put into his work. It's just that they won't let him.
Samurai Jack, right?
Yeah.
That's who he's talking about.
Oh, okay. I like Samurai Jack.
Yeah, like all of all the Hotel Transylvania stuff. That's him too. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The Last Addams Family cartoon. That's him too.
I like those. I
Thanks
like all of those
ruining it.
movies.
I had
I'm
her
not gonna lie.
convinced I had her convinced that I drew Hotel Transylvania. Thanks, Sean.
That's my childhood down the drain.
The girls are asked to go to the top floor of the house and open all the windows, but when they find the stairs, they're apprehensive because it's more like an attic, and they're a little scared, which makes sense because it's dark and probably chock-a-block full of soot gremlins. And when they get up there, May sees a bunch of them and ends up catching one. She runs downstairs to tell her father when she runs into a blocky old lady that introduces herself as Granny.
Okay, so one thing I gotta say is another great dad moment that happens here, because they don't just look for the stairs. The dad comes out and says, girls, somebody seems to have hidden the stairs. Would you please find them for me? Like this game of moving into the new house, this is a dad who deserves like a tip of the old hat.
He gets the dad moniker for sure.
He knows how to get the job done. I know it wouldn't work on me because I'm too smart for that, but
May's father tells her that Granny takes care of the house, which means Granny is really bad at her job. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but May, the younger sister, is probably the cutest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. I love her so much. It makes my heart hurt. She is perfect with her little round head. And if anyone has anything bad to say about her, it's because they're dead inside and they immediately need to see a therapist, because that kid is so cute.
Oh, it's just adorable. You can't get in, and like you said, with the little squatty head and the big giant wide smile and everything. And here's the thing. Again, this is the attention to detail. The things that this little girl is doing is what little girls do. Just the way that she moves, the way that her facial expressions, the way she gets mad at stuff, that is little girls all day long.
And probably just the best example of an animated girl in animation that I can think of from a feature. You know, there's some TV shows where you get a lot of time to work on a character that are great, but a feature, you got your 2 hours or less and you got to do it. And they do a great job here.
They definitely capture like how little kids act. Even the voice actor too. They do really good on capturing how little kids like that talk. It's crazy.
I want to talk.
She's a famous American actor.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, Dakota and Elle Fanning, who are both sisters, and I think that makes this English translation just like absolutely amazing. It is real. I couldn't imagine that.
And I don't know what year they did this dub.
2005.
The Fanning sisters still sound really young. Like I would have thought it was before 2005, because in 2005 Dakota's basically an adult, and she still sounds very young here.
Yeah, but in those kids, she was even like the first thing I saw Dakota Fanning in. She had 0 lines, but it was an episode of CSI, probably like season 4 or something. And she's amazing. She's just staring, and like they're like, we need this kid to look scared. And boy, oh boy, she just murdered it.
And I got this weird phenomenon where I feel like Dakota Fanning was this massive child star, but I couldn't name a credit right now to save my life.
One of the best ones, and I tell everybody to go back in it because it is one of his best features ever, Ridley Scott's Man on Fire. You got Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington plays a guard in Mexico City to Dakota Fanning. It is amazing.
Is Dakota in War of the Worlds?
Yeah.
Yeah, she holds her own with Tom Cruise. That lady is very talented. I'm surprised she's not doing more now. Maybe she's just
she was in that
counting money.
She was in that little Quentin Tarantino film called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So
yeah, that's a big deal. But that was 3 years ago, dude.
I've never heard of this woman. Y'all are.
She may be one of those faces. I don't know. Maybe who knows?
I might recognize her. I'm really bad with like celebrity names. It's nuts.
We watch the family doing various chores around the house as they're moving in, which sounds boring, but it's amazing. And the neighborhood boy comes by and gets all weird again, showing off his Donkey Kong teeth. And he tells Satsuki that her house is haunted. And we learn that his name is Kanta and that Satsuki doesn't like him very much. But Satsuki, don't kill the messenger. Am I right?
She knows.
It's been a long first day at the house, and what's a better way to unwind than Dad, Satsuki, and May all taking a bath at the same time? It's a little weird. I've never taken a bath with my daughters, and this scene hits my American eyes all wrong, but the body language of the kids tells me there's nothing untoward or unpleasant about this.
If there's anything that we have learned over the years from our lone wolf and cub is that just parents be bathing with their kids a lot. It's all right.
I guess so.
I think it's more common when you're like younger, but I don't know. I can't ever imagine that. That'd be
it's weird.
It's a little weird, yeah.
And there's a great little moment here, though, where the girls are afraid of all the sounds the old house is making, and their dad tells them to start laughing, and the things that are trying to scare them will go away. So the entire family starts laughing, and all the soot sprites fly away into the gigantic tree that will definitely, absolutely be coming up later. They wake up the next day and start immediately doing chores, which is how you know this movie is a fantasy. And when they're done, all 3 Kusakabis jump on their bike because the girls are going to see their mother in the hospital. On the way there, they see the neighbor boy, and both Satsuki and Kanta sticks out their tongues at each other. But then Kanta does this weird thing where he pulls down on one eyelid at her, which I think is a Japanese way of flipping somebody the bird, but I don't know for sure. Does anyone else know?
It's just like a teasing thing. It shows up a lot in animes, but I've never seen somebody done it in real life.
Me,
He
I
like
got
pulls
it.
down the
I
and
got it.
sticks out the tongue.
I got a theory,
you
but
like,
it's not
you
good
like
for the
showing
show.
the bottom part of your eyeball where like the conjunctiva has all the vessels. Did you ever do the thing growing up where you like turn your eyelids
Flip 'em out,
inside
yeah.
out?
Ew.
It's
I've always
kind of like
hated that.
it's kind of like right there. It's like it's just gross. It's like showing somebody the inside of your nose or something to like pull down your
It's
lower
like,
eyelid.
it's like a teasing thing, like a nana boo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's considered kind of gross to people to see those veins around the eye, which
You
is
can't-
kind of offensive to me considering. But you know.
Ew.
And you can't moon
It is a
anybody in a
special type.
G-rated movie. It's untoward.
They get to the hospital, which looks more like a church than I would have liked. And when we see the mother, she's not like Charlie Bucket's grandparents in Willy Wonka, where they're always in bed lying down. She's more like a middling actress trying to win an Oscar because you can tell she's sick, but you're not sure from what, and the movie never says. And mom asks why the girls aren't at school, to which Satsuki replies, "It's rice planting day."
Well, yeah.
And let me tell you,
Everybody knows
as a
rice planting
young,
day.
lazy person, as much as I hated school back then, I would have hated planting rice twice as much.
So can we talk about the elephant-sized forehead in the room?
Oh, yeah, it is bad. It is bad.
All the adults actually have bulbous heads if we think about it. Dad's got a huge noggin too.
Have you guys ever seen Miyazaki? A little like an onion head.
Oh, is he?
Really?
I don't know. I just thought I would say that.
I know what he looks like, and
I
I'm
have no
just like,
idea.
I'm trying to figure out where Bruce is coming from. I'm like, I've seen the man before. He looks like a regular old Japanese grandpa kind of guy.
Every time I see him, he's always got his hand on his forehead and a cigarette in his hand.
Well, maybe he's just covering up his forehead with his hands so that nobody knows.
I
Could be.
always wanted to write like a skit or a sketch where people are trying to decide what kind of voice Foghorn Leghorn should have. And Tex Avery kicks open the door and he says, I say now, get this character taken care of full right. And then he shuts the door and walks away. And that's the joke. But nobody knows who Foghorn Leghorn or Tex Avery are now.
Hey,
So-
Sophia, we've been doing this show for 8 years. This is what it's been like.
So let me help you out.
Years.
Let
Jeez.
me help you out with this, Bruce. This is the difference between skit and sketch.
Yes.
So a skit is something that the football team puts on at the talent show when they're dressed like cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Yes.
A sketch is something that comedians write on a television show or a live stage event.
Someone took
See,
the
I
time.
just call it a bit. I just call all of it a bit.
No, a bit's a totally different thing, sweetheart. I
know.
promise you.
Listen, I'm not
A
in
bit builds up to a set, and we're not working on a set.
You're not
Couple
even
jokes
talking
in
about a
bit, bits
chunk.
in
You
set.
skipped a step. What's wrong with you?
Well, yeah, there is a bit that goes to a chunk that goes to a set.
My sets were all chunky.
Not
I'm a guy who rarely went beyond 7 minutes.
I've got a rather chunky set. I'm not going to lie to you, boys.
Look at the set on that fella.
That guy's got a chunky set, I'll tell you.
The first time Corrado said you got all the time you want, I went 45 minutes, and he said never again.
So there is a lot of talk between the very sick mom and the daughters about their hair. And it's a really wonderful scene just watching these four people in this little room in this hospital that looks way too much like a church, and they're just enjoying each other's company. As dad and the two girls take their bicycle back home, the dad says she should be able to come home real soon, which usually means she's going to die before they get out of eye shot of the hospital.
Oh,
It
the
also
foreshadowing
did-
is strong with this one.
It did seem like she was kind of, I don't want to say faking it, but it was just like, she doesn't look like she's that bad. If she can carry on a conversation that well, here in America, we kick your butt out of that hospital.
Well, see, when everything isn't just about profit, like people are treated a whole lot better.
I don't
As
know.
a person, as a person who works in the healthcare system, the idea of letting someone go home for a weekend and then come back to the hospital and then go home for good later on is crazy.
Yeah, you just check in like it's a resort. No?
Not
It's
US,
the next morning, and Satsuki is off for her first full day at the new school, which means May is left by herself to play in the acres of fields because Japanese culture is weird. And as this perfect little round-headed girl is out exploring, she runs into a little creature that has big ears and is semi-translucent. And I wouldn't go as far to call this thing cute, but it's definitely not scary. And May begins to follow this thing, and it notices that May is following it, and it disappears. But May strains real hard and sees it again, and it takes off like a shot under her house. It joins up with a slightly bigger version of the same species who's holding a bag over its shoulder like Bill Bixby in The Incredible Hulk, and May chases them both away from the house and into a cavern made of tree roots from that gigantic tree that we've been seeing throughout this entire movie. May chases them into a place that may or may not be a magical garden, and that's when we see a giant version of the same type of creature. And this, my friends, is Totoro. You might be familiar with his work. He is the star of the movie My Name is Totoro.
Man, who'd have thought that giant tree that kept popping up would be important?
So there is a part in this movie, though. Now, have you guys ever been to Disney's Animal Kingdom?
No.
They got
Is
this
that
thing.
is that in the one in Florida?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I have been.
It's got this thing where there's like this tree called the world tree or the life tree or something. Anyway, there's this big old tree right in the middle of the park. And no matter where you are in the park, you can look up and you can see that tree.
Huh.
But the little sister in My Neighbor Totoro, she goes down the tunnel in the tree. Then later, when she's trying to take her dad back to the tree, she cannot find the largest tree in Asia, which is weird to me.
To be fair, I feel like if I was in that situation, I also would not be able to find the tree.
You would not be able to find the 700-foot tall, probably 66-foot diameter tree.
It's a lot
I
of
can
green.
hardly find Walgreens. It took me like years of memorizing the path to school just to make it that far.
Let me tell
Okay,
you
fair
something.
enough.
I'm on the same page with you. I have to, like, if I'm going to a place, I got to put it in my GPS like 50 times before I remember where the heck I'm going. So, you know,
I love you,
Oh,
Adam.
yeah.
I'm loving everything right now.
I was
that you're
just
saying.
like, I still to this day, I've been like, I'll throw it on going like, maybe I don't know.
I had to put on my GPS just to get to CVS like yesterday, I think it was, because I had never driven there myself. I just remember being in the car blinking and, oh, we're there.
And the
Once
worst
you
part
solve
is
the
they live
riddle-
above a CVS.
once you solved the despicable Sphinx's riddle of how to get to CVS, how did you spin your splendor?
I bought nail glue. Actually, no, I didn't, because they didn't have what I needed, and I felt weird just going in and not getting anything, so I ended up getting shaving cream.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want, because there was just the one guy, and it was just me and the worker in the whole store, and I felt weird just going in and then walking out.
Yep. I know
So
how
I
that
bought
is.
something, and then I GPSed another CVS, but I didn't know if it had nail glue, and I wasn't about to like drive all over the place like blindly trying to get there. So I went to the CVS store and see if they had it. And the one that I found was so far away from where I was, and I missed my turn 3 times.
Was
and
it in
was
Missouri?
really bad. No, it was like 20 minutes away though.
There's no CVS on earth that's worth a 20-minute drive. Sorry.
Nope.
Well, it was
That is and by the way, that is the most Southern you've sounded on this entire show so far, Sophia, where you were like, and I was in the Walgreens and it was weird. It's the most Southern you've sounded in the entire show. So back to My Neighbor Totoro. We know that this is Totoro because May asks him what his name is, and he tells her his name. So it's not like it's hard to figure it out. He tries to scare her by growling at her, but she did what her dad said and starts laughing, which seems to chill out Totoro, who is roughly the size of a bear, but looks like a monster and a rabbit had a baby, and that baby has giant human teeth. Now, May's laughing has chilled out Totoro, and he falls asleep, which makes May fall asleep right on top of him, which is a great place for a nap because he's fat and he's fuzzy. And it's the cutest thing you're ever going to see, this little scene. If you live to be 110, it's so damn cute. She gets awoken later by her older sister, but when she wakes up, what's this? Totoro is gone. And when she tries to show her the secret magical garden, she can't seem to remember where it's located. And this is another moment when you have to ask yourself, is this real? Is Totoro real? To which I say again, I do not want to live in a world where Totoro isn't real. Now, Mei and Satsuki's dad tells them that Totoro is a wood spirit and that he shows himself when he wants to be seen.
Talk about
I
a
feel that. I
great.
show myself when I want to be seen.
Wow.
It's a great parent answer. What dad is doing here, because he's just like, he's not denying any of their stuff. He's not telling them no or you're stupid or whatever. And he's giving himself the greatest out of like, hey, if you never even see that stuff again, if you never have any of this, they don't want you to. It's
Now,
a great dad answer.
I'm going to confess here. There is a little bit of yearning for better fathers in Japan. And you can really see this here. And I'm not just speaking out of my butthole here, but like I have found out from Japanese YouTuber comments and stuff, like there are a lot of people that will chime in and say like, I wish I had a dad like you. But Sophia, can you comment on this? Because you're who kind of told me a little bit about this to start with.
There's a really big culture in Japan revolving around work. And so and the gender roles are really, really strong over there too. So what happens is the mom, she stays home and she takes care of the kids all the time. And the dad is never home. He's always at work. He's always pulling late hours because work is so, so important over in Japan. Especially, it's mostly office jobs and it's overworked people, and they stay until the kids are
salary man or a 7-3 man, because they work from 7 in the morning till 3 in the afternoon. But then
then they stay out later.
I think it's becoming Pan-Asian though, because there are Korean and Chinese folks who also talk about like the same idea.
Really, it's such a strong like Eastern culture in general type thing.
A whole lot of the success I had on YouTube was just,
people who needed a dad.
Just being me for people who like me, and I am a dad. I hate it that I wasn't on that Guardians of the Galaxy thing, but there's a line in there when they say Drax wasn't meant to be a destroyer, who's meant to be a dad. I might have cried a little bit.
Yeah, it's a pretty good scene. Pretty good scene. It's the next day, and Dad has to teach at the university. So Satsuki drops off Mei with Granny to look after her while Satsuki's at school. And hey, wouldn't you know it? Granny's done another half-assed job, because look who showed up at school. It's Mei. Hey, Granny, is there anything that you are good at? I mean, sure, you're nice enough, but nice ain't getting the job done, lady.
All she did was keep crying, so I just brought
Granny.
her.
Sophia, could you imagine when you and your brothers and your mother moved back to West Virginia from North Carolina, if you just showed up to the house and some old lady who I'd never met before, I said, call her Granny, she's going to be taking care of you now, and I went to work?
I would not trust the granny. I probably would stay holed up in my room. I mean, I did that anyways, but it would be a lot worse.
But she also looks like that lady too.
But
that would be so
like block-headed.
scary. I don't.
But you know what?
The big mole.
We have an aunt that doesn't look that different than Granny, and she's like the sweetest aunt in the world, and she works so hard. Aunt Suki.
I love Aunt Suki to death. I love her so much. But like she was at a family function and was well established to be in our family when I met her.
That's true.
If some random old woman just was in our house, I probably would call the cops. I don't know. I'd be scared. Like I feel like I could take a granny, but also I don't know what she's done in her past life, and I don't want to risk it. So.
Does she finish jobs that she's given to do, this lady? Because that would be the difference.
This child just kept crying.
So Satsuki, who is 10 at the most, now has to negotiate with her teacher to let Mei stay at school with her. And keep in mind, her mother may or may not be in the hospital with cancer. And now she has to deal with this on top of everything else because Granny can't do anything.
Well,
now
just treat it like show and tell.
I have grown up in an extremely, extremely rural community where this is not as bizarre as it would be to somebody who grew up in bigger cities.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine taking something to class with me. That'd be awful.
Oh, man. You just wait till you get to college and I send them with you.
No,
It starts to rain as they're walking home, and there's some umbrella shenanigans. Some people have umbrellas, some people don't. And the girls are waiting at the bus stop for their father because he also forgot to bring his umbrella to work. When who shows up at the bus stop? Oh, man, it's Totoro. And it's very clear that he's looking to meet some ladies because he's dressed in his finest single giant leaf on his head. It's his best giant leaf. It's his going out leaf.
He's
Now,
just to
Satsuki,
impress.
this is exactly. Satsuki hands him an umbrella while he waits for the bus, but he doesn't know how an umbrella works because he's a stupid animal. So Satsuki has to show him, and boy, does he go bananas. He loves this umbrella. And that's when the cat bus shows up to pick up Totoro. What's the cat bus? It's exactly what it sounds like. It is a cat that is a bus. What does it mean? I have no idea, but it's weird. And even though I don't like cats, I love a cat bus. Now, Totoro gives Satsuki a little package, and he keeps the umbrella and takes off in this here cat bus.
Which, by the way,
I
the
wanna
cat
know-
bus, 10 arms or legs or however you want to.
Love that bus though.
I want to know how one just is sitting there one day and they're like, you know what? Cat bus. And where does that come from?
So
I think
10 cat buses a day go through my mind.
That's, you know,
I think this has something to do with Japanese lore because it's too specific. Like there might be some
I
cribbing
think-
there.
I think it's a Cheshire Cat. I think it's Western influence on Miyazaki because there's no secret that he loved Western animation.
That is true.
And that's why he does the more fairy tale and less action hero style.
And he probably grew up in the 60s.
And he
Just saying.
loves that Winnie the Pooh,
Just
blood
saying.
and honey.
So some time passes and we find out that the gift Totoro gave the girls was a bunch of acorns. So the girls plant the acorns, but they're not growing. But then one night, Totoro shows back up with the two other little Totoros, which, by the way, are they like his posse? Are they his children? What's going on with the two smaller Totoros?
He's like a gremlin. He
anyone
gets
know?
wet and
I like
they
to think
pop
it was
off.
like mitosis.
They feel like the Silver Surfer to his Galactus.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we'll go Silver Surfer. And Totoro makes the acorns grow into a giant tree, and he pulls out a top, and then he jumps on it, and then it makes him fly. And the girls jump on Totoro as he flies around the countryside. And look, I know when I say that it sounds insane, but it's a weird sort of dream logic and vibes that this movie works on, and it's just all so charming.
At this point, you are with whatever this movie is deciding to do. If you're still with it at this point, you're going, okay, all right, I guess this big giant tree and we're floating in the air. Okay, well, why not?
It's all just fun, you know?
I love everything about the tree. This is the kind of fantasies I used to have. I used to sit in my backyard and imagine there was like this invisible line and I could step across the line and it was like the middle of winter with snow everywhere and I could jump back across the line and it was like the 4th of July with shorts and hot dogs and fireworks. And this is the kind of stuff that would just run wild in my mind. So the idea of a portal to like a little Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe action was always cool for me.
Yeah, and honestly, like this is it's a lot kind of how I grew up as a kid and stuff too. Is like very active imagination and everything, and that's why because I'm a little bit younger than these guys, Sophia. I
wouldn't be able to tell though if we were in the same room. You'd be like, oh, they're all the same age.
I think that is
Everybody
wildly
keeps
inaccurate.
asking me if I'm Sophia's younger brother.
Yeah.
Wildly inaccurate.
I don't think that's true.
But I used to watch the Muppet Babies. It was animated, but it was all about kids that were using their imagination. Like they didn't have a whole bunch of things.
Hey,
They were always stuck in
for
that
the-
nursery.
for
They
the-
had to use their imagination. What?
For the record, I was in 5th grade when Muppet Babies premiered. So yeah, I watched it too.
But it was like that's what I
ended-
loved about that show is it was just kids using their imagination, and that's what I thought was that I look at this and I was just like, oh, that just feels like what we used to do as kids. Just had crazy, dumb fantasy. Play dates.
I want to ask you guys a question about childhood imagination and like imaginary friends and stuff. Like when I was a kid, and I would like play along with the game of imaginary friends and stuff. I never for a second believed that my imagination was real. But I see so many movies and stuff about the wonder of children's imagination where the line between imagination and reality is blurred. Do any actual real people without mental illness have that problem?
I never did.
I had imaginary friends when I was a kid.
Did you know they were imaginary though?
Yes, of course.
Did you see them?
No.
Yeah, same here. Like I had an imaginary friend because I remember I was in about the second or third grade and I said, it'd be a cool thing to have an imaginary friend. So I made up Arthur Sir Knight and I pretended, my imaginary friend was a guy in full plate armor. Go figure.
Even your imagination is so nerdy. Mine was
His own child just sat there and went, ugh, my father.
My imaginary friend name, and I swear this is true, his name was Mike from Bolton.
I love the name.
And the reason why he was from Bolton is because Bolton was the town next door for me.
I love it.
Where I grew
I'm thinking
up.
Like Michael Bolton the whole time.
No, Mike from Bolton.
One time, Michael Bolton came to Ashland, Kentucky, which is what's Springfield's rival town again?
Shelbyville.
Shelbyville, yeah.
Ashland is the Shelbyville to Huntington.
Actually, yeah.
And when Michael Bolton came to Shelbyville, we never heard the end of it over here in Huntington. And this was like in the very, very late 90s when it should not have been that big a deal for Michael Bolton to come to your town.
How am I supposed to live with
devils?
He was dating Ashley Judd, who happened to be from Ashland. And her name was Ashland Judd because she was named after that city.
Good grief.
So spring turns to summer, and both Satsuki and May are telling Granny that their mom is coming home this weekend. When wouldn't you know it, a telegram shows up. There's probably good news in that telegram, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what's that you say? It's from the hospital?
There's no such thing as a good telegram from a hospital.
Oh, it's from the hospital, you say. Well, it's probably the hospital saying that everything is great now and that they just came up with a medicine that's going to make mom better forever now, right? And that she'll never get sick. What's that? Mom's taking a turn for the worse and she can't come home from the hospital this weekend? What? What a surprise. Are you sure they're not giving mom a robot legs?
They should have sent a singing telegram to lighten the mood.
I heard that you were feeling ill. Headache, fever, and a chill. I'm sorry, keep going.
One time, I'm going to say about 1976. So it's like freshly.
Before I was born.
It's like freshly post-Vietnam. And, all four of my uncles are in the military. And it's 1976. My grandma gets a letter from the Department of Defense that she looks at it and goes, well, I didn't even know there was still a war, but it looks like somebody died. And that is what my grandmother said. My mean ass Kentucky grandmother said when she picked up the thing. And that's kind of what I'm feeling here when that telegram comes. It's like, oh, I guess your mother died.
Sorry.
Oof, that feels like the olden days of breaking up over text. Dying.
The olden days. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Let's pause for a minute. And I hate to sidetrack the podcast, but you understand
do?
back in the old
Since
days.
when?
You wait a minute. You do? You hate to sidetrack the podcast?
8 years. This is the first time.
Huh. Let me write that down.
Sean, you may not realize this, but back in the old days, people would break up via text.
No. I mean, they break up in text now, but back in the old days, they die via mail.
Oh, yeah. They died via mail.
Yeah. That's how, it's like a different type of breakup.
Which is worse, to get broken up with via text or to find out that a loved one died via mail?
That's a good question.
Okay, continue, my friends.
Depends on how hot they are.
Yeah.
So everyone is sad and miserable, and things have gotten so sad that even Granny isn't screwing up anymore because she's comforting people. Can you believe it? Even Granny is doing a good job. But if you think things are at rock bottom for everyone, you'd be wrong, because that's when May runs away. Everyone starts looking for her. They find a sandal in a pond, but thank God it's not hers. And her perfect round little head is still out there somewhere.
Can we talk real quick about how we see that sandal and it's just like, it's not her. The other little girl that's dead, though, yeah, screw that girl. She's dead. She gone.
I love the idea that just simply losing a sandal is not an option in this world.
No, everybody knows that if there's a sandal floating in the river, a child did die. That's just a
100%.
constant in this world.
I got to tell you,
This world of wonder.
It's
Sun
like
will
when
rise.
it's like when you see sneakers strung over a telephone pole, you know that angel has gone to heaven.
here's the thing. Someday in life, like, I'm pretty good at achieving my bucket list items. You guys may not know
This is
Your
true,
bucket list
though.
are your real bucket lists.
Seriously,
Your secret bucket lists.
my secret bucket list, whatever you want to call it.
The true bucket lists.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at check marking those boxes. Okay. So,
The one that you let everybody see, that one?
yeah, that's the real one.
That isn't the real one.
The secret one mostly involves paying bills on time. Okay.
Let me ask you if that box is checked when you get Magneto's powers.
When I get Magneto's powers, Sean, things are not going to go good for you. I'm just going to tell you right now.
At least he's honest.
Ultimate revenge.
Yeah.
Count yourself lucky.
Like you are one of the chosen few who will be at my side, but you will have to pay a certain price first.
Fair enough.
Pray continue. I don't know what I was going to say, but let's get back to the story.
I threw you off with the Magneto powers, didn't I? They think that May have attempted to walk to the hospital to see her mom, but that's at least a 5-hour walk, and May is only 4. It starts getting dark, and Satsuki goes and asks Totoro for help. So he flies to the top of the tree, starts screaming for the cat bus, and that cat bus shows up toot sweet. Satsuki gets in. That dang old cat bus takes her right to May, who's sitting on the side of the road holding an ear of corn. And because the cat bus is awesome, it then takes Satsuki and May to the hospital to see their mom, where they sit in a tree with cat bus, watching their father and mom talk and laugh, and they know that everything's going to be okay. May leaves her corn for mom, and cat bus takes the girls back home. And that is My Neighbor Totoro, the movie.
I like to think mom's
Is it
a drug
perfect?
addict.
Is
Yes.
it perfect?
Yes.
Yes. Is it almost all of the things that I hate in a movie, except for maybe Dungeons and Dragons, but still love it anyway? Also, yes. The end.
Sophia,
Yes.
straight, honest answer. Don't be playing no showbiz stuff here for the microphone.
Okay.
Who's the coolest Dungeons and Dragons guy you know?
Well, I don't really know a lot, so that means you by default. But that's only because you're the only one I
Okay,
know.
so
That's
we're
how
going
Dad
to
rolls.
edit this out where it just says you. Okay?
Oh, there's this one group that I watch.
No, they're
every now and
losers.
again.
Okay, let's get on with the show, guys. Sophia, you got to be a
The most
professional.
hilarious
Okay,
part
guys,
is he
go
thinks
on.
I'm going to edit this show.
Yeah, no kidding. Adam kept in.
Continue, guys,
Adam
sorry.
kept in the time where I started screaming at the other two guys because I was like, "This is the same show. We're doing the same show."
So I want to talk in some broad strokes here, then we'll get into our ratings and Stallone connection and stuff. But this really starts off episodic, like somebody was. I mean, this animation at this time is so. I'm trying to think of the term that's like sweat inducing, like really hard work,
Labor
like
intensive.
drudgery. Yeah, labor intensive animation. So you're not throwing anything away. So if you had a couple of false starts and you animated 3 to 4 minutes of that, you're going to turn that into an episode. And this just really feels so episodic, and it turns into something real that I think that is the Winnie the Pooh comparison. Because if you've ever seen the classic Winnie the Pooh movie, you've ever read the old book, you know that it's very episodic, like the very blustery day and the day that this happened and the day that that happened. And I see that the comparison is really more about the story, but this is one of those crazy things where I have to tell people if you start it and don't finish it, you have hurt yourself.
Oh, for sure. If you step into this thing, so I do want to say this, because this is especially if you're getting into any of the Studio Ghibli stuff, I say, or especially even if you're not a regular anime fan, this may be a fantastic thing for you to join on with, because it starts very slow. It has, it gets you into it. They don't hit you over the head too much with crazy, fantastical ideas. There's just enough of it so you get like a little bit of that crazy anime, what's going on here kind of things, but it doesn't alienate you in any way. It's a nice, just easy sort of thing. And if you're going to start someplace with Studio Ghibli, this is where I started. I say it's a good spot.
I think it's a much better version of The Bridge to Terabithia, actually.
Yeah, it really is. I'm not a huge fan of that movie,
Neither
but I
am I.
like the book.
I like
The book
the
is
book.
better.
The book is really good. I remember I kind of have nostalgia bias to it because I watched it a long time ago and I was really little, so obviously you like anything when you're a kid.
She watched it like
But-
way back in 2011 or something.
Yeah, I don't know how old I was. I was young. So I like it. I feel like if I watched it now, I probably wouldn't like it as much. That's how I felt about the Spy Kids movies. I recently rewatched those, and I was like, man, this animation is so bad.
I saw a
neither
meme
nor
today. I saw a meme today that had it said, I'm not trying to start a fight here, but this is what every Marvel movie looks like to me now. And then it was a picture from Spy Kids 3D.
I love it.
And I was like,
That's great.
well, you ain't wrong.
That's
Spy Kids
great.
is such a good franchise. Like, they did good for the resources they had at the time.
Yeah, those
Oh,
were
you mean the
very low
resources
budget.
they had, which were unlimited? You may not know this, Sophia, but Spy Kids was made by like a very, very A-list director at the time.
I did not know that. All I know is that Shark Boy, I always had a crush on him.
Yeah,
And
who
who
know
knew
who
that?
that was? You and your
It's Taylor Lautner.
and you know your mother kind of had a crush on him, which is weird.
Well, she probably had a crush on him through Twilight.
Of course, she had a crush on him through
Yeah.
Twilight.
It'd
Any
be
other
weird
way
if it
would've
was
been
Shark
even
Boy.
weirder.
Exactly.
That's for darn sure.
I think it was when he was younger.
Oh.
That baby is really handsome.
The abs on that baby, immaculate. Unbelievable. All right,
I'm so
before
sorry, guys, but
A Greek god of a fetus, bro.
you can't get two Leslie's behind a microphone. It's bad news.
It's bad news indeed. All right, before we get to our final review, we have to find out how in the world this 1988 Studio Ghibli movie relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Konnichiwa, Mr. Stallone. It's truth time. I was not looking forward to this week's Stallone connection. During last year's anime, I remember having a difficult time finding connections to you due to the fact that you were in the same Venn diagram as anime about as often as Bruce Springsteen is to Korean pop music. How the hell am I supposed to connect a 35-year-old Japanese cartoon to you? But then it hit me. My Neighbor Totoro was dubbed into English twice. One by Disney, which is the version that I know, but once by the fine people at Troma Film, a company whose motto seems to be, that's probably good enough. So I briskly hustled to the internet and looked up the English voice cast. And like a busload of handicapped children on fire, the answer started screaming at me. That answer? Frank Megatron Welker.
Yeah.
The man who works so often, I'm fairly sure he's working as I speak these words aloud right now.
Growling into some mic.
He's got over 890 acting and voiceover credits. Frank Welker was the voice of the cat bus in My Neighbor Totoro,
Of course he was.
which is some pretty ingenious casting, since you can totally see someone saying, yes, but what would the cat bus sound like? And someone else saying, how about the bad guy from Gremlins? And someone else saying, What, you mean Billy's father because he should never have brought home an invasive species and he practically destroyed his entire town due to his own hubris? And the other person would say, Danny, I'm so tired of you bad-mouthing the dad from Gremlins. And then Danny would reply, I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm just asking you to think about it. And another person saying, what were we talking about again? And then yet another person in the same room saying, the character Stripe from Gremlins was voiced by Fred Welker. Well, Fred Welker has been the voice of Fred on Scooby-Doo since the show started in 1969. And as I said earlier, he's the voice of Stripe and Gremlins, Dr. Claw on Inspector Gadget. And in 1986, he was the voice of Mad Dog on a cartoon called Rambo. I never watched Rambo when I was a kid because there were a million other cartoons I'd rather be watching, like Voltron, but it was a million little different vehicles stacked on each other. Or Dirty Baby Voltron, which was called Transor Z. So I don't know I don't know much about Rambo. But I'll bet those sharp-eared HMP listeners know what happens next. I went to the best source for television discussion on the internet, the IMDb user reviews. And this week's review comes from someone who likes to call themselves an angel for life. And their review is entitled, Give Me This Rambo.
Yeah.
They write, Jonathan J. Rambo has seen the light. After his 3 movies in which he was nothing more than a murdering machine, no better than the villains he killed, he finally realized that true heroes don't kill, and that a man of his talents can defeat thousands of foes without ending a single life. Rambo was aided by his commanding officer, Samuel Troutman, Kathy Taylor, Army Brat Cat, Turbo Johnson, weapons specialist, White Dragon, ninja hero, and T.D. Jones, who was a football hero. His foes from Savage are much worse than the simpletons he killed in the mindless movies. General Warhawk and Sergeant Havoc alone could take out Rambo easily, but they also have Gripper and his most dangerous but lovable Uzi Shield, Black Dragon, who's White Dragon's evil ninja brother, Nomad, the Middle Eastern terrorist, and Mad Dog, the urban biker with an army of dangerous cyborgs. This action is awesome and smart. The stories are brilliant. The fans are cool, unlike one guy whose review about Rambo 2 insulted the entire United States intelligence. You know who you are, Slappy. The second best military cartoon next to G.I. Joe. Rambo is one top-of-the-line series. Give me this Rambo anytime. 10 out of 10 stars.
Wow.
Now, thank you. Thank you, Angel for Life. My favorite part of your review is when you call Brian Dennehy's character from the first Rambo a simpleton. And that's the Stallone connection this week. Voiceover actor, workaholic, Frank Megatron Welker. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, Sweet Chauncey from the internet.
Best not let Brian Dennehy get word of that.
Mm-mm.
Got a skull cracking in there if we need to. All right, it is time, everybody. We have to rate this bad boy. We don't have stars or anything else like that. Bruce, you may want to pull up a picture for Sophia so she understands what's going on here.
It's going to be more fun doing it the other way around.
You're probably right. We have a Robin rating system here. No stars, no letters, no nothing like that. We do it on the scale of Robins. I'll start off here since Sean, you've done so much work today. Thank you. For me, again, this is my second time watching this, and it felt like the first time again. And it wasn't that long ago that I watched this, and I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much. It is nice. It's simple. In a weird way, while Bruce even goes so far as to call it like episodic in a lot of ways, to me it's also kind of a hangout movie. You know, you were just hanging out with these characters in their lives and the things that are kind of going on. Sure, some of them are kind of mundane, but like, I'll be honest with you, like, who amongst us has not had those moments in their life where you've caught yourself in the middle of doing some mundane stuff and you're like, this is great, isn't it? Like, that's, like, you need that. You need that in life, and that's what this is like. Watching this for me it was just that nice, warm feeling of going back, hanging out with these characters. Nothing really bad happens. It's like, it's a good time. And like I can't stress it enough. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a Damien or Dick Grayson all the way around for me. Sean, how about you?
It's Dick Grayson, man. This is my favorite animated anything. It is so perfect in every way. It's weird. It's charming. It's wonderful. It has the cutest drawn character ever in the history of human existence. May is so cute, especially when she's got a little hat on her head. It's my favorite. So this is a Dick Grayson all the way.
Getting mad, kind of crossing the eyes a little bit. Just,
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh my gosh. Bruce, how about you?
Okay, so I'm going to talk to Sophia here for just a minute. Sophia,
Yeah.
so like Robin from Teen Titans Go.
Yeah.
There's been more than one person who's been Robin.
Yeah, because I know they keep dying and stuff.
Yeah, so out of all the Robins, which Robin in your mind is equivalent to this film?
I don't know the Robins.
Do you
I'm
think
not
it's a
part of the
good Robin? Do you think it's a good Robin or a bad Robin?
a good one?
The best one or a good one?
Not the best one, but definitely a good one.
Okay, so Tim Drake.
Sure.
Sounds like a
I
Tim
don't
Drake.
know who that is, but
Yeah,
yep.
Tim Drake. And my rating doesn't matter. Who needs me to validate? Hey, yo, Miyazaki. So
Perfect.
I'm going to just stand behind my daughter's rating of Tim Drake.
Before this moment, the only Robin name I knew was Jason Todd.
Well, you don't want to give that. That's the lowest one. Jason Todd is the one that fans actually voted to kill. They were like,
Yeah.
we hate this
Really?
Robin so much.
Yeah.
They called a 1-900 number and paid money and said, yeah, kill him off. And they did.
Wow.
So that's why that's why that's at the bottom of the scale, is that's the turd that won't flush.
Well, this is
Oh,
definitely
yuck.
better than Jason Todd. I'll say that much.
There you go. Better than Jason Todd. Miyazaki, put it on your wall right now. I want you to do it. Print it out on a sheet of paper. That is it, everybody. Another episode of Hero Movie Podcast is in the books. We have anime continuing on. Bruce, what do you got for next week for us?
You know what? I'm so happy to have Sophia here. And the reason I ever got into anime was that first video I did about Mugen Train. Demon Slayer Mugen Train.
Yeah.
And guess who the co-star of that video is?
What?
Me, I'm the reason he saw it.
So go to youtube.com. YouTube.com. Like, can you believe Sean?
I wasn't even
thinks
asking
that
for
the
your plug.
kids
I was
these
saying, what
days
movie are we doing next week?
needs the .com. Anyway, YouTube. I want to go tell people to find Sophia on YouTube. Go find Anime Dad, Demon Slayer movie, Mugen Train, whatever. She's in it. She is a superstar. 130,000 people around the world said, your daughter is amazing.
Oh,
And I said, I don't need them to tell me that. I already know. But anyway, next week we're going to watch Your Name, which is the only anime on earth that might be sadder than A Silent Voice. So
No
that's what you
way.
got.
Oh, great! So we've gone from a world of loveliness and everything is fine. There's nothing bad. To Bruce is going to drag us down to the depths of hell. Sounds like a great time.
And also,
Like he did last year.
by
He
listener
did the same
Matthew
thing last
Vandiver.
year.
You know what? I think
I
you're
want
right.
to give Matthew Vandiver the credit for the recommendation.
I
on
think
Your
that
Name.
means blame, Matthew.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Matt.
All right. Well, Sean, what else? What do we got?
We have a show called Star Wars 30Q or Marvel 30Q.
Yeah.
We do both of those where we ask questions of the newest episode of either a Marvel show or a Star Wars show. So check either one of those things out. If you just type in 30Q into your podcatcher, you will find us. If you are listening to this and you have no idea who we are or what we do, but you like it.
Yeah, man, we appreciate that. And Secret Invasion coming up soon, so we got that to look forward to. So check all that stuff out. That is it. Oh, and again, I want to plug the YouTube page. I think if all of you right now who are listening to, not even all of you, if even like a very small portion of you, go and subscribe to our YouTube page. Just type in Hero Movie Podcast. It's in there. And subscribe to us. We are almost at 10,000 subscribers. I can almost guarantee you, if you listen to this and you go subscribe right now, we will be that next week.
Yes. And then you can sell merch.
Oh, I can sell merch
Ooh,
after
everybody
that.
wants the hero movie
Yeah,
merch.
yeah, because that's
Hey,
why I want 10,000 on Anime Dad is to sell the merch.
We sold some merch in here before, so it was to say. All right, so all that good stuff. Go check us out. Links are in the show notes for all of this stuff. That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking Your Name for Sweet Sean's and Kovacs from the internet. Bruce, Leslie, and Sophia. My name's Etta Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.